Here we go on a Wednesday. The Herd brought to you by Jersey Mike Subs. Be a sub above, live in L.A. It's The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. We didn't plan it this way. Joy and I matched today. We're wearing yellow. Just one time a year I wear it, and Joy's wearing a yellow dress. I swear to God.
Never wear yellow.
We did not plan this. It's just the way it worked out.
I can't believe it.
Something's in the air.
You know what it is? It's the summer. It's my favorite time of the year in LA. People are at the beach.
Happy.
The sun's out.
Masks
We're
off.
free. It was so weird. I was down at the promenade yesterday. I'm like walking into a store, fumbling with my mask, and they're like, "You don't need it."
How good does that feel?
Oh, it's like
Freedom.
chicken noodle soup. It's great. It does. It feels like freedom.
It's great to have you in today. You ever watch the news, especially like CNN or Fox News or MSNBC on cable, and they'll have an expert, a military expert, political expert. They just throw that word around like everybody's an expert. The other day I'm watching a show, and they're talking about UFOs, and they had a UFO expert. And I'm thinking, how can you be an expert in something you've never really seen up close? It's hard to be an expert. Like, to me, an expert is like a veterinarian with animals. That would be an expert. But everybody on these networks is throwing out expert. He's an expert on UFOs and military and foreign affairs, and I'm always a little skeptical. I'd like to introduce you to an expert. Kevin Durant is an offensive expert. In offensive basketball, that's what an expert looks like. He can dribble. He can fade. He can hit threes. He can drive. He can finish. He can slash. He is a complete offensive machine. Do you know how exhausting it is to play 48 minutes of an NBA game? How exhausting that is. That's a 9,000 calorie burn. And it's not like KD's got a, extra pudding. He's the skinniest great player ever. He plays an entire game, 49 minutes, 17 rebounds, 10 assists, has to defend, and that was an all-time performance. And what's just remarkable, the last 5 seasons in which he's been healthy at the end of it, he has been the best offensive player on the best team. So this is not a surprise. And that game, if you really think about it, now that LeBron's older and is out, there really is no competition for the best player. Because this has always been a 75-25 offense over defense league. Giannis can't shoot. Kyrie has struggled with injuries. Dame's a small player. Luka's too young. AD can't stay healthy. Embiid's got injuries. James Harden has no playoff credibility. Kawhi, he's hurt again, kind of a question mark. This is, now that LeBron's out, LeBron's always been sort of the roadblock. Now that he's out, this is Kevin's league. It should be Kevin's league. The last 5 seasons in which he's been healthy at the end, he's been like the best player on the, best team. And it was really funny watching this game last night. Did you notice how emotional Durant was and Steve Nash was at the end of that game? Like Kevin's not on the floor. He'll be frustrated time to time, but he's not a fist pumper. That's not really his thing, right? He's kind of stoic sometimes. Did you see how emotional he was? Because I think Kevin knows last night's win, they're in the finals. I don't care about Philadelphia. I don't care about Atlanta. I don't care about the Bucks. I think Kevin knew, I gotta buy time tonight. Kyrie will come back eventually. It's probably the next series. And Harden was obviously going to be rusty. He was, that first quarter, it was like, has James ever played basketball? I think Kevin knew, can I buy us a night? That's it. I just got to get us a night. If I can get us through this. It's the same way I look at the football season. When Joy and I go into a football season, you can't take a day off for 5 months. And I always look at Thanksgiving. If I can get to Thanksgiving, I'm not sick, I'm ready to go, I can see the next Monday I show up after Thanksgiving, I can see light at the end of the tunnel. I can see Christmas vacation. I thought Kevin Durant at the end of that game, he knew, okay, if I can get past tonight, Harden's not going to be really good. He's not going to be 100%. He's not going to have his timing. He's not going to be able to really defend. And he got him through it. That's what an offensive expert looks like. To be that effortless and that efficient in the biggest game of the year against a supposedly great defensive team. Again, what's amazing about great players, and I know we talk about them nonstop, but I've said this multiple times. Does everybody understand how much greater like Peyton Manning, Brady, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Durant are? LeBron, think about this. Every time Kevin Durant in his entire career after maybe his rookie season goes into a game, the whole game plan is stop that guy. And nobody can. I mean, that's what greatness is. Kobe, for most of his career, we got to stop Kobe tonight. You looked at film at Kobe. Nobody was sitting around breaking down film on Derek Fisher or Brian Shaw. When you really think about how great Peyton Manning was, he got everybody's best shot. Like I've talked to defensive coordinators. They're like, oh, yeah, it's Peyton Manning week. It's Tom Brady week where you don't want to be humiliated. Like Milwaukee does not want to be humiliated when they play Kevin Durant. Harden's not 100%. Kyrie's not playing. So Milwaukee, this great defensive team knew, just stop Kevin. They couldn't stop him. They didn't. There wasn't even a speed bump. I mean, what you watched last night is the Jordan 63 points against the Celtics. He lost that playoff game. Is everybody knew Michael, you got to stop Michael, we can win. Nobody could stop Michael. That's why when people come up to me and go, you guys talk stars too much. I'm like, do you understand how much better, and Chris Middleton's a good player. He is a 19-point-a-game NBA player. Do you understand how great the truly greats are? Chris Middleton's not getting doubles, and he's giving you 19. Kevin Durant's the whole focus of Milwaukee last night. The coaching staff, the players, and that's what you get. I don't want to hear about UFO experts. I'm done with UFO experts. That is an expert in offense, and Steve Nash afterwards in awe.
Historic performance. I mean, he played the entire game. He barely missed. You know, we know he's capable of nights like this, but to do it tonight, you know, we lose Kai. You know, James obviously is soldiering through, you know, his ailments. We're down bodies, we're wounded, and for him to have the toughness, the mentality, you know, that's what makes him one of the all-time greats. And so this was a performance that, you know, a signature performance, you know, for Kevin, and it was beautiful to watch.
And you could tell with Nash and KD's reaction, they could tell, we just got to get past tonight. And they did. All right, this is devastating news for the Clippers. That's really bad. It could get way worse. Kawhi is out for Game 5 against Utah. That's a game tonight. He's out. Utah's going to win. Now, you can't put him on Donovan Mitchell. He's going to just bring down the house, and you don't have to guard Kawhi. And now Paul George is your primary scorer, and that is a role Paul George has not always been comfortable in. The Jazz are going to win. They're going to win going away. And according to reports now, Leonard has told teammates, be prepared. I may miss the series. That's not great. You know, we see all these injuries. I was talking to Gary Payton yesterday. Gary Payton, the glove, is a Hall of Fame basketball player. I grew up in the Northwest. He played at Oregon State and with the Sonics, great player. Gary Payton played no fewer than 80 games, only 3 times in 17 years that he played fewer than 80 games. And when it was fewer, it was like 78, 79. And in that era, there were harder fouls. You got pushed around more. You didn't have state-of-the-art treatment like now. There was more fatiguing travel. And Gary Payton never missed games. And I asked him, everybody's getting hurt. Is it luck? Is it a condensed schedule? And he said something very interesting to me. He said, you know, the more power players get in any sport, the less they have to practice and the less conditioning you can demand of them. And he goes, when I played, I had to guard guys that were like Michael Jordan strong. He goes, I didn't get hurt because I was lifting. I would be in the facility for 5 hours lifting for 3. That's just not the way the game works. In the NFL, offensive lines have gotten so bad. I mean, I never even talked about offensive lines my entire career doing this. In the last 5 years, it's all I talk about. That's why I like the Cleveland Browns this year. Their offensive line's easily the best in football. Is that why do the offensive lines get bad? We still have offensive linemen in college, great ones. But with the CBA, the players didn't get necessarily all the things they wanted, but they got less practice time. What does that mean? Well, what's the unit on the football field that needs the most practice time? Offensive lines. It's a very technical position. I mean, Myles Garrett can rush the passer in any defense. You know what I mean? But an offensive line to be a cohesive unit needs practice time. Well, in the last CBA, they took away some camps. They took away some practices. Even great college offensive linemen take longer now, usually year 2, before you can count on them. And players won, but did they really? You know, the players now have more power than they've ever had in the NBA. But players have always run the NBA, but now you can't demand as much. The weightlifting, the off seasons, a lot of these guys just check out, they come back, and they play, and by the end of a season, they're banged up. Some of it's the condensed schedule. I'm not denying that. Some of it could be bad luck, but we have literally every star on virtually every team now is hurt. This is beyond condensed schedule and bad luck. Players, when they win in these collective bargaining agreements, one of the wins they always want is give me more off season, fewer practices, less nonsense. At the end of a season, that's not always a win. We know Russell Wilson, LeBron James for most of his career, and Brady don't get hurt much. Why? Because of the time they put into their bodies in the off season. I mean, LeBron, Tom Brady, and Russell Wilson have nothing in common. 2 play football, 1 plays basketball, one's 6'9", one's closer to 5'9". You know, one's kind of skinny and tall, one's bulky and tall, one's short and squatty. But it's their commitment to the offseason, their commitment with training that allows them at the end of seasons to be strong and healthy. Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, I mean, and I'm not saying these guys don't work hard, but it's got to be more than a condensed schedule. This series now, it's very interesting. Utah's going to obviously win Game 5. That's it. But remember, if Kawhi Leonard doesn't return for this series, if the Clippers get ousted from the playoffs, hey, maybe Portland benefits. Maybe the Lakers could benefit. Maybe somebody in the league benefits. But they'll move him. Now, they won't trade him to the Lakers, but they will move him if the next 2 games are ugly. Every opinion I had yesterday on the Clippers, all of it changes. You know, Joey and I always say this. Don't hold us to opinions when information changes. I can hear Jazz fans saying, well, Mike Conley was hurt. Mike Conley's not Kawhi Leonard. Okay? I mean, Kyrie's great. He's not KD. Harden's great. He's not KD. Mike Conley's not Kawhi Leonard. This is a total franchise changer, a total series changer. He's the best defender on the wing in this series. He's the best get-a-bucket guy on the wing in this series. He's mostly unaffected by press and negativity. He just puts his head down and plays. What a break for Utah, and what a bad break for the Clippers. Boy, crazy. It is just crazy what's happened to these playoffs. Coming up next, nothing is everything, but everything's something. Not a good day in Miami yesterday. I'll talk about that. What do you get when you cross a Mercedes-Benz SUV with a race car? What do you get when you put a 4-liter biturbo engine under the hood of a luxury sedan? When you combine the sleek shapeliness of a coupe with the power of F1 engineering, chills, goosebumps, and engine roar, you can feel in your gut the legendary perfection of Mercedes-Benz cars and trucks, fused with the motorsport genius of the world's greatest F1 race team. If you love the Mercedes-ness of their sedans, the curves of their coupes, the might of their SUVs, just 3 little letters on the trunklet, and the power of several hundred horses under the hood elevates that passion to heights you never thought possible. No other way to express it. OMG, AMG. Learn more about all their beautiful merchandise at mbusa.com/AMG. Mercedes-AMG, driving performance.